Hare Krishna. Welcome to this special session um, called The Search for Happiness. Before we get started, I will start with a quick introduction about me and my wife, and we'll start get into the material real quickly. So, my name is Param Karuna Das. That is my initiated name or Dikshit name, and my real name, not real as in like legal name or given name, is Purushottam Goel. My wife is also here on Zoom, Gunjan Tiwari, and her Dikshit or initiated spiritual name is Damodar Leela. So we live in Portland, Oregon, in United States. We have been here for the last 17 years. Before that, we used to live in India. And I work here in Intel, the company that makes computer chips, as you might know, as a computer chip designer. And we have two sons, teenagers, and one of them is going to college this year, and the other one is still in high school. Um, and I also have my mother who lives with me over here. Um, so that's a little bit about us. We have been associated with Bhagavad Gita, with the teachings of Lord Krishna, and specifically the ISKCON organization, the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, for about, I would say, 17 to 20 years. And me and my wife have been doing these kind of Bhagavad Gita classes for almost 10 years or more. Um, and one of our missions, or you can say purposes, or goals in life, is to reach as many people as possible and share the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita that we have got through someone's um, blessings, and definitely through Lord Krishna's blessings and the blessings of the founder Acharya of ISKCON, Srila Prabhupada. So that is a quick introduction about us. Just very quickly on Zoom, if possible, please turn on your video. I'd like to see you. Um, um, and, but keep your microphone muted so that it doesn't cause audio disturbance. The most important thing is that, if possible, please try to sit in a quiet place and dedicate this we will go for about 1 hour. And please listen with rapt attention. I don't mean to boast or uh, uh, say anything like that, but this could be one of the most important sessions or talks that you might have attended. Some people who have attended talks like this in the past few years have told us that, that one talk that I attended and the subsequent actions that I took completely changed my life. So, um, our goal here is to spread the message of Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita cannot be covered in 1 hour. Uh, it takes a little bit longer than that. But we are here to give a sort of or offer a sampling session, as we call it. I'll get into that in just a minute. But our goal is that even if one person out of this group is inspired to take interest in Bhagavad Gita, then we will consider ourselves very successful. So please don't multitask, and please spend this time. It might change your life. We don't have, or I don't plan to have any slides. I don't much believe in slides, although they are very good for informational presentations. But I feel that for inspirational presentations, it's not very useful, because time goes at looking at the slides rather than focusing on the message. So again, the most important thing is to listen attentively without multitasking, and um, um, don't be in a quiet and a calm place. So, the topic of the discussion today is the search for happiness. Actually, it's a very loaded and a very heavy topic if you think about it. But we will try to make sense out of it for the best possible in the hour. It is entirely going to be based on the concepts of Bhagavad Gita. Um, but this sampling session is not like a sampling of like a ice cream, where you go into an ice cream shop and you say, can I have a sample of that ice cream? And he takes a little spoon and gives you a sample from the tub. So the difference is that he can take the spoon from any place in the tub, and you can really get a sample of the ice cream. You can get a taste of it. But that is not something that we can do for the Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita is not like a tub of ice cream. It is meant to be gone in or understood in sequence. So we cannot just go in the middle at any place and give a sample. Really, if you want a sample, it has to be like from the beginning for it to make even some sense. So, our uh, if you really want a sample of the Bhagavad Gita session, we after COVID started, we originally used to do these classes face to face. We never got the idea to do these online, but uh, last year, every year we conduct a batch of 6 months, 6 to 7 months, and the last batch that we conducted was entirely online, and all those videos are available on YouTube. So you can actually watch the entire Bhagavad Gita series recorded on YouTube already. It's out there for everybody to watch. But the benefit to go through a new Bhagavad Gita series is that you can ask question answers, and it provides a schedule, it provides a forcing function to attend the classes. If you are so disciplined that you can just go to YouTube and watch all the classes, then that's great. And but only the thing is that the opportunity to do question answers may not be there. In But for most people, if you are like me, uh, one is not as disciplined, and therefore a sort of a externally set schedule helps most people. And yeah, and there will be some other differences, minor differences between what is already there and what we will be doing. We also do a much deeper level study of Bhagavad Gita, which is also, details of that are there on the website that we have created for the effort that we are doing. Our website name is called gitapdx.com. My wife, who is assisting me here, can put that in the chat. It's called Gita PDX. PDX is the short form for Portland. Since we are based in Portland, we call it Gita PDX. And if you want to register for the course, you can go to gitapdx.com/register. So that is the website for registration, and you can register yourself in the Bhagavad Gita classes that will start on 9th of July. Just a quick idea about the classes. So let me just quickly share my screen here, and I can show you how to. Okay, hopefully you can see the screen. And this is the website, and you can go to gitapdx.com. It is mentioned over here as well, gitapdx.com. And you can go, there's a register button over here. You can go here, you can click on this one also, register for the course. Or you can directly go to gitapdx.com/register. So that is the link, gitapdx.com/register. And it will take you to a very simple form where basic information like your email, name, phone number, country, where you are from, that is asked. That's all. And that's how you can register for the course. Uh, this is a 6-month course on Bhagavad Gita, completely free of cost, online on Zoom. And the most important part is that it is uh, based, a great deal of focus is placed on practical application, on applying the Bhagavad Gita practically in our lives. So that is the great benefit of the way we are conducting, because Bhagavad Gita is not meant for a just for understanding and knowledge. It is meant for application. Arjuna was on a battlefield, and he was not, that's not the right place for gaining knowledge. He had a problem that was staring him in the eyes, whether to fight or not to fight. And Bhagavad Gita allowed him to take that decision, which allowed him to take certain action, a very, very strong kind of action, which is participating in a war. So Bhagavad Gita is highly, highly applicative. We are not in such a grave situation like Arjun, but we are in our little grave situations where Bhagavad Gita constantly helps us to guide us in our life. So we focus deeply on every verse of the Bhagavad Gita and understand the holistic, the overall meaning of Bhagavad Gita. Not just one verse here, one verse there, one verse there, like a random set of formulas. Bhagavad Gita is not a random set of formulas that you can say, oh, I am in this situation, which formula I should apply. Let me pick that formula. I will apply it here and solve this problem. It is not like a math or physics problem where you need to know the right formula to apply. It is a holistic understanding where one lives the life according to the principles of Bhagavad Gita. So understanding those overall principles is what we will focus on. But we will go deeply into each and every verse as well, each and every shloka. So with that, I will just start that Bhagavad Gita is, some people may think they know Bhagavad Gita. I was one such person many, many years ago. And, there is this very most famous verse of Bhagavad Gita. Does anybody want to say? I'm sure you'll say the most famous verse, which most people know. What is that one?
यदा यदा हि धर्मस्य ग्लानिर्भवति भारते अभ्युत्थानम् अधर्मस्य तदात्मानं सृजाम्यहम्.
Very nice. Thank you. Thanks to B.R. Chopra, when they did the Mahabharat series, this verse became very common. But there, before the B.R. Chopra series on Mahabharat, there used to be one more verse, which used to be very famous and which used to be applied or supposedly applied in people's lives, which is that one. People consider that to be highly applicative in their life. I can apply it. Very famous. Everybody almost, at least almost every Indian knows it.
कर्मण्येवाधिकारस्ते मा फलेषु कदाचन.
Very nice. Thank you very much. Karmanyevadhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana. One sec. I'm stopping to share here. Yeah. So that is the verse. That is the most common verse, but it is also the most misunderstood verse. Why am I saying that it is the most misunderstood verse? Because the whole verse goes like this. Karmanyevadhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana ma karma phala heturbhur mate sangostva akarmani. So we will go into the details. We will go very deep into this verse in the Bhagavad Gita class. But the misunderstanding, the sort of the misinterpretation that people kind of carry about this verse is the most common sort of understanding they take is, tu karma karta ja, phal ki chinta mat kar. Do your duty, do not worry about the result. Isn't it? That is the most common understanding, but that is a very big misunderstanding about this verse. That is exactly not what this verse is saying. If that is what it was saying, ki karma karta ja, phal ki chinta mat kar, then it is very, very favorable for all the employers. Everybody who's an employer, very favorable. All the employees should continue doing the work, but not worry about the salary. And all the employees, it is highly unfavorable for them. Why would you work in a company or in a job if you are not going to get the salary? So that is a misunderstanding of this verse. So we will go deep into this, and similarly we will go in deep into every verse. Yet this verse is highly applicative. It has a lot of significance, applicative significance in our life. But we will go into, we'll understand and go deep into this verse in the class. Not today. Today we will focus on happiness. So this sample session on Bhagavad Gita is a different kind of a sample. Like I explained earlier, it is not a sample like a sampling of ice cream. The purpose or purpose of the sampling is to generate an interest in the whole. So in that sense, it is similar to an ice cream sampling. So when you taste a little portion of the ice cream, the idea is for you to see if you are interested in buying a whole cup of the ice cream, right? That is why you sample the ice cream, or to find out if I am interested in the whole. So the sample is to determine our interest in the whole. So in this case, in our case today, the whole is the Bhagavad Gita. That is our tub of ice cream. And today's session, the way you should understand it is that if today's session you like, if you find today's session interesting, if it appeals to you, then we request you to join the Bhagavad Gita class or the Bhagavad Gita series. Okay, so today we will be talking about happiness, but that is not the only thing that Bhagavad Gita talks about. It absolutely talks about happiness at a very, very deep level, and it is a very big topic of the Bhagavad Gita, but it's not the only topic, and it is by far not the biggest topic. It is a very big topic, but not the biggest topic. So what is Bhagavad Gita? Just to kind of quickly understand, or what is the purpose of Bhagavad Gita? Why does Bhagavad Gita exist? What can we hope to get by understanding the whole Bhagavad Gita, not just karmanyevadhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana ma karma phala heturbhur mate sangostva karmani, or yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata. Not just those 2-3 very, very famous verses. Bhagavad Gita has 700 verses. And there is just so much magical Amrit. Amrit means, something that will make you eternally, what's the word? Immortal. Immortal. So literally Bhagavad Gita is by far the most important textbook that you can read. It is called Mahagrantha. It is, if there is one book that you can read, it should be Bhagavad Gita. It is also known as Grantharaj, the king of all Granthas, the king of all Shastras. But I would like to say Bhagavad Gita is the manual of life. With every complex machine comes a manual. These days cars are becoming very complex with a lot of controls. It comes with manuals, this button, that button. To control a modern car is not an easy thing. You first have to read the manual, do all the settings, all the Bluetooth, this camera, that camera, this, that. It's mind-boggling. So with every complex machine there is a manual. Similarly, human body is a very, very complex machine, by far the most complex machine that exists. And Bhagavad Gita is the manual for that machine. And therefore, the manual has to be read before you operate the machine. A lot of people think, oh, Bhagavad Gita, I have to read only at the end of my life. One of my friends told me a story that he gave his boss a Bhagavad Gita on his retirement party. And the boss got very angry. Why are you giving me Bhagavad Gita? Do you think I'm going to die tomorrow? I have 20 years more to live. I have planned my whole retirement. I will go to Hawaii. I will go to Maldives. I will go here and there and there. When I'm about to die, then you give me Bhagavad Gita. So the understanding is Bhagavad Gita is supposed to be read at the end of the life, or maybe never. But a manual is supposed to be read in the beginning, not at the end. So Bhagavad Gita is the manual for life. It has answers to all, and I underline the word all, absolutely all questions, all important questions of life. I have been teaching Bhagavad Gita for many, many years, 10 plus years, and there has not been a single question that somebody asked me which I have not answered on the basis of Bhagavad Gita. Okay, now, of course, Bhagavad Gita doesn't tell you how to build an aeroplane. So it's about life's important questions. What is the purpose of my life? What is life itself? What is death? What happens after death? Is there life after death? Is there something called God? Should I do anything about this concept of God? How can I live happily? How can I have fulfilling relationships in my life? What is the meaning of relationships? Aren't these the problems that we want to solve in our life? So in that sense, Bhagavad Gita answers all questions, really all questions. Somebody once asked me, does Bhagavad Gita talk about quantum mechanics? Arguably, quantum mechanics is a very advanced science, and it's very important, and we are saying it answers all important questions. So somebody asked me, interestingly enough, Bhagavad Gita does talk about in the direction of quantum mechanics. Now we will talk about it. If you are interested, we can talk about it in the question answer time. But today's session is about the search for happiness. So we will talk about that. And we will try to leave some time for question answers as well. So in the common understanding, so the topic is search for happiness. Very, very important topic. So in a common man's understanding, what is happiness? Would some of you like to just shout out? What is happiness for you? Just shout out.
Prabhuji, any incident or anything which gives me a bliss, whether it's a purchase or anything, Prabhuji, that probably is a happiness for me.
Can you name a thing? Like you said, anything, but just as a sample.
Maybe Prabhuji, new car.
Okay,
That's
excellent.
when I buy it's a happiness for me.
Yes, thank you.
I got a new job. It's a happiness for me.
Yes, new job, high-paying job. You get rid
Good
of your old
health
boss.
is happiness for me. Good
Sorry?
health.
Very
Health.
good. Good health. Very important. Very, very important.
To give others happiness is happiness for us.
Very nice. To make others happy. Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. Very good points.
Paramaji, happiness is something that is fluid for me. So I could feel happy just listening to music. I could be happy just cooking for the family. I could be happy just talking to my son. So these are the things that do give me happiness.
Very good. Excellent answer. Cooking for the family, or, having a, you said something about something else about family. So can I kind of summarize that and say relationships? In relationships, we feel happy. Very nice. Wonderful answers. Anything else?
Yeah, for me, happiness is something when I am able to tackle whatever I should tackle in the right way
Very good.
in my life.
So satisfaction of doing the right
Think
thing.
in the right way,
Yes.
not hurting anybody.
Not hurting anybody. Very good. Very nice. So we can largely say being a good person. Yes. So we got a lot of answers. We'll move on. So there are some answers on the chat as well, I am told, but let me have a quick look at chat and see what's going on. Yeah, anything that brings peace. Very nice. So there are all these things. And when I was making the notes for the class, I was looking at what makes me happy. And, one of the things is I kind of, if you think a little bit deeply, and I like to read history a lot. So, being born in a well-to-do family is a thing to feel happy about. Look at in the world, how many people are just born in a very, very poor family. Right then and there, 80% of their happiness is more or less taken away. If you are coming from medieval period, living past the age of 3 was being happy, because child mortality was so high. Because of today modern medicines and all those things, children don't die after birth. But 500 or 1000 years ago, just living past the age of 3 years old, one would feel happy just to be alive. So anyway, many other things, job security, getting a new job is being happy. Then staying in that job is also happiness. Not getting fired, not losing the job due to COVID.
Can I say something? Can I say something?
Yes, please.
Yeah. As you said just now, in medieval periods, in present time, if we don't have any casualty in a family or in a circle, we feel happy because of COVID.
Exactly.
Presently, the same thing, whatever you said about medieval period.
Yeah. And unfortunately, we are living in a time where, and this is a grave situation, it's not something to I'm going to just mute everyone. Okay. So we are living in a very grave situation these days, and especially in India, there is so much disease, there is so much death, and people are very scared. So happiness is something that seems far away for many people. So just being free of disease, free of COVID, or in previous time, or even in the future, being free of cancer or heart problems, or just so many things can be definitions of happiness. But if you see, there is so much progress that has occurred in healthcare, in technology, in various areas, but still people are mostly unhappy. Can anybody say I am completely happy? The top 5 health issues for Americans. Now, I have been living in America, and America is good at publishing statistics and collecting a lot of data. I'm sure other countries are as well, but I just looked up the statistics, and the top 5 health issues for Americans are the following. Top 5 health issues. Hypertension, which is also called blood pressure, is number 1. Depression is number 2. High cholesterol is number 3. Heart disease is number 4, and diabetes is number 5. These are the top 5 health issues of Americans. And about 30% of all Americans, more than 30% of all Americans, have one or more of these. And you might think, why it is 30%? It's a low number because it considers all Americans. If you consider all Americans above 40 years of age, then the percentage becomes almost 60 to 70%, because younger people are healthier. And the important point is, most of these diseases have to do with stress. Hypertension, depression, high cholesterol, heart disease, and diabetes. Stress is one of the biggest contributors to all these 5. And stress is a result of unhappiness, or unhappiness is a result of stress. Basically, the stress and unhappiness are very, very highly related to each other. So the point I'm trying to make is that, yes, we have listed so many criteria for being happy, but that happiness is elusive. It is not present in the life of most people. Most people. Now, some people are very lucky to have very long life, very good family, very good relationships, all that. It's not like it is not possible. It is possible. And Bhagavad Gita tells us why also some people have it and some don't. But that is a different question for a different day. In the Bhagavad Gita series, we will answer all these questions. We will take up all these topics. Okay, but today's topic is happiness. And we realize in our life, we don't need Bhagavad Gita to realize that happiness is temporary. For most people, today one may be happy, but being happy forever, for a very long time throughout the life is even more rare. Many people are never happy. Some people are sometimes happy. Very tiny fraction people are always happy. You can think of like, Queen Elizabeth or some, whoever you may think, Bill Gates, or Bill Gates is also undergoing divorce these days. We thought he's one of the happiest people. Steve Jobs, that poor person has had cancer and he passed away. He could not see that his company became the #1 company in the world. Other people are enjoying based on what he created, but that poor person, he could not enjoy. So happiness is temporary, it is short-lived, and it is not fulfilling enough. Always we feel it is not enough. And that is the nature of happiness. So we gave those statistics, all those top 5 diseases or whatever health problems in America, which are all related to unhappiness. By the way, it does not take into account the statistics for things like, I will just take one area of life. Suppose there are many areas, like somebody lost a job, that causes immense unhappiness. But just the number of relationship problems people have, which don't lead to depression, full-blown depression where you have to seek medical advice, like just fights between husband and wife, between brothers, between friends, between colleagues, or with the boss, or whoever in relationships, there are all kinds of unhappiness. So let us take, for the sake of discussion today, one source of happiness. And this has been identified as the #1 source of unhappiness for most people. Please see if it is applicable in your life. That #1 source of unhappiness is loneliness. Loneliness. Even if there are a lot of people around you, in your mind, there could be loneliness. You don't connect with people. You may be living around a lot of people, still you could be lonely. And many people are even physically lonely. Nobody comes to visit them. Nobody talks to them. So that is one big source of the feeling of unhappiness. So relationships. Loneliness is directly related to relationships, isn't it? If there is a good relationship you have with someone, then that is the opposite of loneliness. So let us assume, even when there was no COVID, before COVID, let's assume no one lost their loved one because of COVID. No one was denied a hospital bed. No one died because they did not get the right amount of oxygen at the right time, or the right kind of medicine at the right time. Let us assume none of those things happened. Even then, loneliness has always been there, even before COVID happened. Ideally, we want to have a great relationship. And to have a great, fulfilling relationship, you don't need more than one person. Means one person does not need more than one more person, which means 2 people. You can live happily just by 2 people. So relationships, you don't need to have 500 like Facebook friends. You can have 5,000 Facebook friends, still be lonely. But if you have one good relationship, One good relationship that can be more fulfilling than having 5,000 Facebook friends. Correct? In the movies, there used to be like the ending line. Ending line used to be, they lived happily ever after. Correct? Just the two people. They lived happily ever after, and that's where the movie ends. So that is the sort of the state of happiness, or one of the states of happiness that one can long for. But that is very elusive in many people's lives. And then there are 500 other reasons for unhappiness. So we are just taking this one important area of unhappiness. And I will, hit upon, now we will go into the Bhagavad Gita of side of things, where we will see that one person, every human being, every single human being on this planet has one person who is waiting, who is desperately waiting to have a great relationship with us. Wouldn't you like that? There is one person who is dying to have a relationship with you. All you have to do is turn towards that person and he is ready to shake hands. And Bhagavad Gita says that the author of Bhagavad Gita is that person. Who is the author of Bhagavad Gita, or the speaker of Bhagavad Gita?
Krishna.
Krishna is the speaker of Bhagavad Gita, and he is dying. He is desperate to have a loving relationship with every single human being. Every single human being. Okay? We talked, somebody said calm and peacefulness gives me happiness, is the definition of happiness. So let me show, we will go through. Now this is the sampling, quote unquote, sampling part, or this is as close as to sampling as we will get in this 1 hour session, or 1 hour, 15 minutes, how much ever time it takes. There is this beautiful verse. It is a very, very uplifting and very reassuring verse for me from the Bhagavad Gita. Now I have the Bhagavad Gita, and at the back of the Bhagavad Gita here, so this is Bhagavad Gita, my paper copy. What I am showing you on the screen, let me stop sharing so you can see me in the big picture. So this is my copy of Bhagavad Gita, and what I was showing on the screen was the online version of it. All of Bhagavad Gita is available online. At the back over here in all this edition, the ISKCON edition of Bhagavad Gita, there is a quote by Mahatma Gandhi. And it says that when Mahatma Gandhi is saying about Bhagavad Gita, when doubts haunt me, when disappointments stare me in the face, and I see not one ray of hope on the horizon. And Mahatma Gandhi has seen such situations where there was no hope at all. He says, I turn to the Bhagavad Gita and find a verse to comfort me. And I immediately begin to smile in the midst of overwhelming sorrow. This is what Mahatma Gandhi says. And I can tell you personally, I am not Mahatma Gandhi. I am not even a tiny fraction of who he was. He was a great personality. But I can tell you from my personal life that this statement is very true. And 5.29, which means chapter 5, 29th verse, is one such verse, especially in the matter of happiness. This verse says, Bhoktaram yagya tapasam sarvaloka maheshwaram. Bhoktaram yagya tapasam sarvaloka maheshwaram suhridam sarvabhutanam gyatva mam shantim rachati. So we will not go through the whole verse. So we are not going to sample even one verse today because Bhagavad Gita is really very vast. We will sample only 1/4 of this verse, which is Suhridam Sarvabhutanam. Suhridam means that a well-wisher, Suhridam, somebody who wishes you well at the level of the heart, Hridam. So he likes you. He wishes well for you. He is your friend. So Lord Krishna is saying, Suhridam Sarvabhutanam. Who is the Suhridam? Somebody is the Suhridam Sarvabhutanam. Sarvabhutanam means all living entities. Of all. Somewhere we have to find out in this verse, who is that person who is the Suhridam Sarvabhutanam? So where can you find in this verse, who is it? Oh, I'm not sharing the screen. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I thought I was sharing the screen. So in this verse, as you can see, Bhoktaram Yagyatapasam Sarvaloka Maheshwaram, the third line is Suhridam Sarvabhutanam. That's in the Devanagari, and this is in the transliteration. Suhridam Sarvabhutanam Gyatva Mam Shantim Rachati. So Krishna is saying that somebody is Suhridam Sarvabhutanam. Somebody is the friend of all living entities. Who is that somebody?
God, Krishna.
But where it says there is no Krishna here in this verse.
It's a God. Anybody who, like your mother can be, because for me, it can be my mother.
No, but I'm saying in this verse, there is anything called mother. There is matra, mata, matra. Such a word is not there. Which word says, who is the Suhridam Sarvabhutanam?
Maheshwaram.
So let me tell you, the answer is Mam.
Yeah.
Mam means me. And who is speaking Bhagavad Gita? Krishna is speaking Bhagavad Gita. So Krishna is saying that I am Suhridam Sarvabhutanam. I am the well-wisher of all the living entities. So he is, even if we don't look towards him, he is still our well-wisher, our friend. But if we look towards him, if we become Krishna Bhakta, then this relationship goes up from friendship to love. Okay? He is so desperate that if we look towards him, he is willing, he uplifts this relationship from a friend, from a Suhridam to a Premi, to Prem. And where does he say that? There is another verse, 7.17, chapter 7, verse number 17. What does he say here? Tesham Gyani Nitya Yukta Ek Bhaktir Vishishyate Priyo hi Gyanino Tyartham Aham Chasama Mama Priyaha. So he says that among all these Gyanis, one who is Nitya Yukta Ek Bhaktir Vishishyate. Vishishyate means special. This Bhakta, one who does bhakti to me, is very special. And he says, Priyo hi Gyanino Atyartham. Such a person is very dear to me, very loving to me. Priyo hi, Priya, the word is Priya. And Aham Sacha Mama Priyaha. And I am very dear to him. You can see 2 times in this verse, the word Priya is there. He is very loving to me, and I am very loving or dear to him. And this is the relationship of a bhakta, Eka Bhaktir. And we will go into more detail when we do this discussion in the class. But the point is that this is the relationship that we can have with the most powerful, the most supreme, the most loving person. And this kind of relationship, in the relationships that we experience in our human life, husband and wife, mother and son, or father and son, mother and son fight, father and son fight, husband, wife fight all the time, brothers, all these relationships, they are at a level of this worldly or this material level. But this relationship that we can have, eternal relationship with God, with Krishna, there is only love. He is so accommodating, he is so magnanimous that there is nothing pretty much that we can do to annoy him. He is so accommodating, and he is so much in love with us. We just have to, Bhagavad Gita tells us the path of how, or the process of how to build that relationship, and then all kinds of loneliness goes away. All kinds of loneliness. And not only it leads to happiness because of lack of loneliness, but it leads to eternal happiness. It truly leads to the state of they lived happily ever after, what we all want to get to after watching the movies. In the movies, we see they lived happily ever after. We can reach that state of they lived happily ever after. And they here means we and God, or we and Krishna. And it is shown over here. This verse is a very beautiful verse, which says, Brahma bhutah prasannatma na shochati na kankshati samah sarveshu bhuteshu mad bhaktim labhate param. What it means is that Brahma bhutah prasanna atma. Little bit you can understand, hopefully. Brahma bhutah prasanna atma. That in this stage of Brahma bhuta, of this intimate relationship with Krishna, one becomes prasannatma. One becomes completely prasanna. Right till the inner atma, one becomes prasanna, completely happy. Na shochati, na kankshati. There is no lamentation. There are no problems. One is totally happy, free from all problems. Samah sarveshu bhuteshu. Such a person is equally disposed to all living entities. Samah sarveshu bhuteshu. One becomes completely at peace with all other living entities as well. So it is not just relationship with Krishna, but it is also having a wonderful relationship with all other living entities. Everyone. So you build that relationship with one person and you get billions of friends automatically. This is magic. This is truly magic. Now, this is coming straight from Bhagavad Gita. I am not making it up. These are real verses from the real Bhagavad Gita. And then the last point is Mad Bhaktim Labhate Param. That is the benefit of Mad Bhaktim. My Bhakti. Mad Bhaktim means my Bhakti, Krishna is saying. So this Bhakti leads to this level of complete prasannatma and samah sarva bhuteshu. Complete happiness and wonderful relationship with all living entities. And the process is described in Bhagavad Gita. This is the last verse we will go through, and we'll just focus quickly. In Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna is saying, Yah shastra vidhim utsrijya vartate kama karatah na sa siddhim avapnoti na sukham na param gatim. So Krishna is saying that those who disregard shastra vidhim utsrijya. Utsrijya means to not follow. Shastra vidhi, and Bhagavad Gita is the Mahashastra. It is the Raj, the Grantha Raj, the king of all Granthas, the king of all Shastras. But those who neglect Shastras, na sukham na param gatim. They don't get that permanent happiness. So, without following the process that is given in Bhagavad Gita, it is very hard, very, very hard to attain true happiness. So the true happiness, if you want to attain, Bhagavad Gita has the answer. It has a perfect, very, very, very solid answer to develop this absolute loving relationship with a person who is dying to have a relationship with you. You just have to turn towards that person, and the process is given in Bhagavad Gita. So I will stop here and see if there are any questions. So again, this was a sampling session. It was just a very, very tiny sample. We cannot cover the whole Bhagavad Gita in 1 hour. There is absolutely no chance. There is no chance we can cover even one topic in depth. So I am sure I might have left you with a lot of questions, with a lot of open-ended thoughts, but that's why I want to keep some time for Q&A so that any major questions can be resolved.
Do you have any class in Bhagavad Gita?
I couldn't hear you properly. Do you have what?
Do you have classes for Bhagavad Gita? Can we join some classes?
Absolutely. That is the whole purpose of this talk today, is to provide a sampling of the main Bhagavad Gita series that we are going to start. So this is like your, you can say, marketing talk or sales talk. But the only difference between any other sales talk and this talk is that the cost is zero. There is no cost. It is free of cost. The product is Bhagavad Gita. So the classes are going to, let me quickly share the screen. The Bhagavad Gita, we have been doing this 6-month course for beginners on Bhagavad Gita for last 10 years. And we are going to start another batch. And it starts on 9th July, which is about 1 month from now. So you can register for the course. 1 second.
Yeah.
By clicking this button, register for course over here. And this is the website called geetapdx.com. So please make a note of this website. And yeah. And the link has been, can you put it along with HTTPS, please? So it is clickable. So the link has been put in the chat, but it is right here on your screen as well. And you can register for the course, and it is a 6-month course on Bhagavad Gita, starting on July 9th.
Where is that link?
Sorry?
Where is the link? The link.
Can you see my screen?
Where's the link?
Can you see my screen?
Yes, I can. Yes, I got it. Yes. Okay,
That is
chat,
the,
right?
it's in the chat, and it's the same one, geetapdx.com. You can either go to geetapdx.com and click on register, or you can directly click the link in the chat.
Okay, and one more question. Supposing I'm traveling to the Netherlands, that's St. Martin, will I still be able to attend your class? But what would be the time, like,
So the timing of
Netherlands,
the,
Antilles?
yeah, so all the sessions will be posted on YouTube for the whole world to watch. Okay. The benefit of attending the class online is you get the opportunity to have question answers. There is a lot of focus on question answers. Because the real doubts get answered by question answers. Just like in science, by reading the chapter, you can understand the science, but real understanding comes when you have to solve problems, numerical problems. Then the real understanding happens.
Okay. Where is this form available?
It is available right now. It is available. Please go to this website and you will see.
Okay, thank you so much.
The timing, please make a note, is on Fridays, 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. Pacific time. That is where we are located. But for people in India, it translates to Saturday morning, 7 a.m.
Okay, Saturday morning. Okay.
For those in India.
Saturday morning, 7 a.m.
Yes.
Okay.
And
India.
classes will be held on Zoom, just like this.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes.
I got it.
Okay. Any other questions?
Yes, thank you.
You mentioned Netherlands. That is interesting because this time 7 a.m. is not good for Europe. So we will have another question answer session for Europe friendly time zone on Saturday 10 to 11 a.m. Pacific time. So we expect those who are based in time zones where it is not possible to attend the class to watch the class on YouTube and ask question answers during this live question answer session at this time.
Okay. Thank you.
Hello?
Okay, any other questions?
Yeah, you were told just now that Saturday 7 to 9 a.m. Is the class. That is the only one option for Indian time.
Yes, for the live class, that is the only option.
Only option Saturday 7 to 9. Because 7 to 9 may be difficult. That is why I said, but I have to attend if I want to.
Yeah. So, well, that is the time of the class, but we will be posting all the videos on YouTube.
No, I would like to attend everything.
Yes,
I
that
will
is
have to
best.
miss something else. Yeah.
So you
So
have to
that is-
see how you can work it out.
I will work it out. And number two, what I wanted to know was, it was mentioned in the beginning that it is an 18 days course.
No,
This
we
is-
did not mention that. It is a 6-month course,
Okay. Only Saturdays.
but once a week. So
Once a
it will
week.
go on for about 26 to 30 weeks, plus minus
Okay.
6 months, plus minus whatever.
Okay.
So once a week, so it is about 26 to 30 weeks.
Okay. Then in this, you said question answers will be there. And it was
Absolutely.
also mentioned that there will be a certificate. Would you be having a practical test sort of a thing? Like we have to say the shlokas or something, or just we understand the meaning
So-
is enough?
Yes. So this is an introduction to Bhagavad Gita course. There is another course that we run, which is called Bhakti Shastri course. It is also mentioned on this website. We
Okay.
just started this on 9th June, and that is a more rigorous course on Bhagavad Gita and 3 more books where you have to memorize some of the shlokas. You have to write the tests. There are homeworks. It is more rigorous. We
And
just started.
when does this course?
Hmm?
On which dates? 9th it started, but it is weekly ones.
Yes, you can see the details and you can click on these links and you can find out.
Okay, okay, I will find out.
But right now the focus is the introduction session, not the advanced one.
Let me do this session, then I can go for the next.
Yes,
That would be methodical.
correct. The people who are doing this one, the advanced one, are the people who have attended the previous batches of the introduction course.
Yes, that would be better.
Yes. Other questions?
Yes, I have a question. May I ask?
Before that, just to be fair, there is one person, Hemant Kumar. He says he
Okay.
has a question.
Yeah, hello.
Yes.
Yeah, I put it in chat box. Can you see that, please?
Okay, let me see. Okay. Krishna same as Shiva? Are there different forms of God, or is it different names of a single entity God? Very good question. But this is a very deep question. And you come to the Bhagavad Gita series class and we will answer this question very, very precisely and very exactly according to Bhagavad Gita. Okay, this cannot be answered in a couple of minutes, and it's a very deep question, very common question. A lot of people have this question. So we will answer this question very, very thoroughly in the series. But even if I try to answer it in 30 seconds or 1 minute, I could do more. It could be counterproductive because it is such a deep topic that a small answer will be counterproductive. It could give a wrong impression. This is a very, very sensitive and a very important topic. So please, we will answer this question absolutely in the series. I will just leave you with that.
Okay, thank you.
sir-
I'll look forward to it.
Yes, hold on.
Sir,
I think Megha had a question, and then I will come back to you.
Okay, okay.
Yes. So my question is, why do we want anything? I mean, why do we have desires in our life? What is the reason behind it?
Very good question. Why do we have desires? The simple answer, and again, I will just answer briefly because, and I will leave you with the thought. We desire because we exist. One of the key symptoms of existence is desires. The only thing is, what is the nature or quality of those desires? Even God has desires, let alone jivas or human beings or living entities. Desire is a very fundamental nature of life. Even a cat and a dog have desires of hunger. They feel hungry, they desire, oh, I want food, let me go looking around for food. So desire, ichha, is a very, very fundamental aspect of life. It is only the nature of the ichha. There is a verse in Bhagavad Gita 7.27. Ichha dvesha samuthena dvanda mohena bharata. Am I still sharing my screen? Yeah, let us see. I will show you that is the fundamental reason for our existence. 7.27. It starts with ichha dvesha samuthena dvanda mohena bharata. Sarva bhutani sammoham sarge yanti parantapa. So all living entities are born into delusion, bewildered by the dualities arisen from desire and hate, ichha and dvesha. And that is what gives us a material body. If the ichha is not hate, but is that of love, then we can be a spiritual entity. Otherwise, we become a material entity. This is a very, again, now I have gone deeper than what I wanted to. But just to answer your question, ichha is always there. The question is that ichha is that of a nature of dvesha or prema, love or hate. I will leave that. Okay.
Thank you.
Sir, can I ask a question?
Yes.
Sir, hi. Why is Gita so complex to begin with, sir? And I'm asking this in comparative terms, right? I've tried to understand Gita on my own, reading multiple books, and at least it's pretty difficult for me to comprehend. Whereas if you look at other scriptures, for example, it's pretty straightforward. It tells you here are 21 rules you need to follow, go and live your life. But Gita is simply so much more complex than this.
21 tools to lead your life? Just
21. 21 is the wrong number, sir. But if you look at Bible, for example, there are specifically called out tools which are a lot more simple to follow, for example.
It is the problem of language. Okay. That is point number one. There are many, many complex editions of the Bible as well. I have attended a Harvard University course on Bible and Quran myself, 1 semester long course, just to understand, because I'm interested in these topics. So I attended a course, an online course. They publish, these big universities publish their courses online just for anybody to do. So I did that course and I kind of have some understanding. So, but anyway, our topic is Bhagavad Gita, not Bible. Even I asked you that question, so that's fine. But Bhagavad Gita, I personally, in my bookshelf behind me, I have 10 different editions of Bhagavad Gita, 10 different editions, which means translations, and the verses, the Sanskrit shlokas are the same. The translation of each verse and the commentary given is what makes a particular edition of Bhagavad Gita a edition. Okay. It is the edition. I have been studying Bhagavad Gita and teaching Bhagavad Gita for a long time, so I can say I know a little bit about it. Bhagavad Gita is very easy to understand. The people who are translating it and giving commentary, some of them have made it overly complex. I don't know why. But okay, Bhagavad Gita is very, very simple to understand. You go and check out the classes that I have done on YouTube, you will see it is actually very simple. Krishna, like if you attended the full hour right now, Krishna is desperate for making a wonderful, loving relationship with all of us. He is like a father trying to tell his children who are turning away from them. Like, you know, you might have seen some children leave their parents and go. Parents are saying, come back to me. So Krishna is like the father. He is trying to teach his children or trying to call his children. Why will he call his children in a complex way so that the child cannot even understand? if it is in Krishna's interest to call out to his children, to send the message to his children, he will send it in the most simple way. Bhagavad Gita is Krishna's attempt to reach all of us. If you want to teach math to your child, will you teach it in a very complex way or in a way which is simple for him to understand?
In a simple way.
Yes, Bhagavad Gita is actually extremely simple. Extremely simple. And this particular edition of Bhagavad Gita by A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, I request you to read that. It is written in very simple language. Start from
What is the
chapter
author?
1.
Name of the author, please.
A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. But this is the more popularly known as the ISKCON. You might have heard of ISKCON. There are all the ISKCON temples everywhere. This is the ISKCON edition of Bhagavad Gita. Okay. Very simple language. It is written, and in the classes, we explain it, even if there are, now I don't want to belittle or oversimplify either. Let me be honest. Yes, at a certain level, Bhagavad Gita is complex. Yes. So I was saying it is very simple, but yes, it is not complete slam dunk as one would say. But that is why through question answers, it becomes much simpler to understand.
Okay.
So I hope I answered your question. I want to remove the fear. It is actually very simple, and we will make it even more simple by the process of Q&A.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, looking forward to your classes as well. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Sir, I have only one small comment to make. Hello.
Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah. I am in front of you. I have no right to answer somebody else's question, but I remember one of the film dialogues. So I just thought, one of the person asked, is God one or different? He asked that question, but still what I felt I am answering, but in front of you I am nothing. It is in the film, I think Chaliya or Avara, one of the Indian films, that she tells, Lalita Pawar is the person, she tells Raj Kapoor, you see, God is one. You are only one person. For your daughter, you are a father. For your husband, for your wife, you are a husband. For your friend, you are a friend. For your father, you are a son. Similarly, different people look at you in a different way and call you differently, but God is one, just as you are one. That
Absolutely.
somehow, when I heard this dialogue long time back when I saw this movie, it is somehow ingrained in my mind, and I never forgot it.
Very
so
nice.
This, in a way, is explaining
Sometimes-
this answer. Yeah.
Sometimes I will say this, sometimes, only sometimes, okay?
Yes.
I feel the films are saying the right thing about God and Bhagavad Gita. In this case, they said the right thing.
Yes.
Okay?
The
So
good
you are
things you pick
absolutely
up.
right.
Don't
Let me
pick
finish.
up the bad ones. Bad ones you leave. Take the good ones and move ahead.
So,
That is what I feel.
yes. So through the Shastras, we understand there are 5 primary rasas. Rasa of relationship between Jiva and God. Those 5 rasas are Shanta Rasa, Dasya Rasa, Sakhya Rasa, Vatsalya Rasa, and Madhurya Rasa. Shanta Rasa means in a neutral level of relationship. Dasya means as a servitor, like Hanumanji, always trying to serve Lord Ram. Then there is like Sakhya, like a friend, like Arjun was a friend of Krishna. So that is another same God, Krishna and Rama, absolutely same person. But Hanumanji is in a different rasa than Arjun. And they are in a different rasa than Yashoda or Kaushalya, who are in a Vatsalya rasa, like they treat God like their child. And then there is Madhurya rasa, like Mother Sita or Srimati Radharani. We worship Radha and Krishna. That is known as Madhurya Rasa, or Ram, Sita and Ram, or Lakshmi Narayana. Okay, so there are all these levels of rasa. It's the same person having different relationship. Yes. Okay. Anyway, we will cover this topic also in the series.
It will be an interesting one with you, I am sure. Many thanks for today's introductory session.
Does anybody
was
else
really
have
very
any
good.
questions? Okay, no questions. Thank you so much for attending. Once again, please, if you found today's session interesting, I will be the instructor for the entire 6-week, 6-month series. And we will be going through Bhagavad Gita in detail. If you found it interesting, if you found the style of teaching and all those things interesting, if you found the topic interesting, if you find the possibility of what Bhagavad Gita can give you interesting, then please sign up and please enjoy the ride. What I will say, like, sit back, relax, and enjoy the ride. Thank you so much for joining.
What's your name, sir?
Sorry?
Your name?
My name is Purushottam Goyal in the normal sort of the outside world, but my initiated or Dikshit name, which means the spiritual name given by my guru, is Param Karuna Das.
No, but if we have to find a few of your teachings on YouTube, on what name can we find it?
Yeah, so if you want to look at the classes on YouTube, once again, I'm sharing this website, geetapdx.com. If you scroll all the way down, you can find a link to the YouTube channel and also the sample videos over here and playlists. So on the main page, geetapdx.com, you will have the link to the YouTube.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank
it was
you.
a pleasure attending.
Thank you.
Yes.
So if anybody has any other questions, I am available. I will keep hanging around if you have more questions, but I will stop the recording at this point. And thank you very much. You can drop out. If you have more questions, I'm happy to answer, and I'm here. Thank you very much.
Excuse me.
1 second, let me stop the recording.
Excuse me.
Hare Krishna.